You're watching UATV News. My name is Inna Kosinska. Good evening. The Normandy format consultations will continue. The advisors to leaders of Ukraine, Germany, France and Russia agreed to meet on January 22nd. Earlier, they discussed the settlement of the situation in Donbass during the meeting in Berlin. Details next.
Though the discussion wasn't easy, it was productive. This was the comment of the Ukrainian President's office concerning consultations of advisors to the leaders of the Normandy 4 states. Chairman of the office says Ukraine consistently defends its position at all negotiations. When it comes about the war, about the lives of our people, negotiations cannot be simple. We work, we not listen to empty talks. We protect Ukrainian interests. This is the fifth meeting of a kind since the Paris summit in December of 2019. Then they agreed on mutual release of the detainees, the separation of forces, demining, as well as opening of the new checkpoints in Donbass. Ukraine has fulfilled its part. Russia not only refuses to comply with the agreements, it also blocks the further process to settle the situation. Ukraine's activity in the negotiation process demonstrated the whole world, and most importantly, the residents of Donbass, that we are those who demonstrate interest in peace, while Russia is blocking the implementation of the agreements. The main topics of consultations was the mutual release of the detainees, operation of the checkpoints and new areas for disengagement of forces in Donbass, the advisor of the Ukrainian delegation to the Trilateral Contact Group Alexei Arestovich said. Security issues are among the top priority ones, namely continuation of the ceasefire, withdrawal of troops, demining of areas, and the humanitarian issue, exchange of prisoners. This is the priority. There was no consensus of any of the issues. The advisors agreed to continue the discussions on January 22, probably the video conference format. In addition, the question of preparation of the meeting of the leaders of the Normandy 4 countries remains open. After all, it is they who should agree on the fundamental issues, Andriy Yermak stressed. I'm absolutely sure that the summit of leaders will be held. Reported by Nick Starkov, Natalia Gayevska, UATV News.
Europe and the USA are outraged by the cynical verdicts imposed on 3 Crimean Tatars in Russia. They were groundlessly accused of terrorism. The ambassadors of the EU, Sweden, Great Britain, as well as the United States Embassy called on Kremlin to release all Ukrainian political prisoners immediately. Yesterday, the Rostov military court illegally brought 3 Crimean Tatars to 13, 17 and 18 years of imprisonment. The Office of the Prosecutor General of Ukraine records all the unfair sentences and persecutions of the inhabitants of the occupied Crimea. At the moment, we are aware of 7 sentences by which 30 people were sentenced to long terms of detention. All such cases are under control, and every fact, every sentence is recorded and investigated within the frameworks of criminal proceedings. At the moment, it has already been reported within the frameworks of criminal proceedings that the senior investigator of the illegally created investigative department of the FSB of Russia in the Republic of Crimea is suspected of having committed illegal imprisonment of members of the Hizb ut-Tahrir organization by prior conspiracy. And in the future, we will also identify persons involved and guilty of committing such crimes and issue notes of suspicion applied to the court for permission to conduct a special judicial review in relation to such persons. 6,409 new COVID-19 cases were recorded in Ukraine overnightly, with 2,564 hospitalized. Among leaders are the capital cities, Zaporizhia and Kharkiv regions. However, the recovery rate follows an upward trend. The number of recoveries over the past day stands twice higher than the infectious rate. The Ministry of Health continues arrangements for vaccine procurement. Head of Ukrainian Health Ministry Maxim Stepanov stated that the contract with the Chinese drug supplier Sinovac ensures at least 70% efficiency of a vaccine. Considering most world drug regulators treat a vaccine efficiency over 50% as a sufficient ratio.
If for some reason the company does not meet those standards, that is the efficiency that we have laid down below 70%, and this agreement does not apply, then the company will reimburse the state in full. We are fully secured financially, and we have a bank guarantee for these cases.
What is the origin of COVID-19? Experts from the World Health Organization got the permission of the Chinese authorities to come to Wuhan. A year ago, a coronavirus appeared in this city, subsequently provoking a global pandemic that continues up to this day. Details next.
After long negotiations and consultations, China agreed to admit a group of foreign virologists and epidemiologists into the country. They will arrive to Wuhan in the nearest future. After consultations between the two sides, the World Health Organization's international team of experts investigating the origins of the new coronavirus will arrive in China on January 14 and will jointly conduct scientific research into the origins of the new coronavirus with Chinese scientists. Based on the current plan, they will fly to Wuhan from Singapore on the 14th. Scientists are ready to study the existing coronavirus and its origins to improve methods of counteracting new diseases.
We have been asked to take a deep look at the question, can we understand how this pandemic started? What was the origin of the pandemic? There are, of course, ideas about where the virus originally has come from, most likely bat reservoirs, but can we somehow reconstruct how exactly that happened, to learn from that for the future of preparedness for emerging diseases.
China, in turn, promises all kinds of support to foreign researchers. We are active, open and supportive concerning the WHO investigation. We hope that the origin tracing may discover something new and provide us with more help that will enable us to have a better understanding of the virus. Meanwhile, the number of cases of COVID-19 continues to rise. According to Johns Hopkins University, more than 91 million people have been infected with the coronavirus since the start of the pandemic. Almost 2 million have died. However, over 50 million have recovered. Reported by Nick Starkov, Vadim Kramer, UATV News.
Author of spacecraft rocketry, SpaceX founder pays tribute to a designer who kickstarted manned spaceflight. Serhiy Korolyov was born in the Ukrainian city Zhytomyr on January 12 in 1907. He designed and organized the launch of the first extraterrestrial satellite and put the first astronaut into space. The State Space Agency of Ukraine recalled the renowned pioneer of rocket building.
Falcon 9 rocket designed by SpaceX has launched from the platform on Cape Canaveral. The prop has put a satellite into circumterrestrial space. January in the US has kickstarted a new season of spacecraft launches.
Supersonic.
Ukrainian Elon Musk, this is how workers of the State Space Agency of Ukraine sometimes call a renowned inventor and designer of the space rocket systems, Serhiy Korolyov. Elon Musk is rarely mistaken, and when he says Korolyov was one of the best, he indeed was a genius designer. He was the man who first started manned space flights in the Soviet Union and on the entire planet, because before Korolyov designed his rockets, nobody had ever entered outer space. Yuri Gagarin was the first to make it on a rocket designed by Serhiy Korolyov. So it is not a surprising fact that Elon Musk admitted it. The best rocket in the world, but after my SpaceX, he adds. This is a tweet by Elon Musk saying he chatted with Korolyov's family.
Vehicle is supersonic.
This is the first satellite, this is the first man in space. These are the first missiles that have been converted from military to civilian. Many rockets served for space exploration, space research and near-Earth space study. President Volodymyr Zelensky invited the SpaceX founder Elon Musk to visit the Korolyov's Museum of Astronautics. Today is the birthday of the great Ukrainian scientist, rocket engineer and spacecraft designer Serhiy Korolyov. Indeed, he was one of the very best. I'd like to invite his longtime fan Elon Musk to Ukraine to see the Serhiy Korolyov Museum of Cosmonautics. Serhiy Korolyov and Elon Musk have a lot in common, they say in Space Agency. Both were not always believed. Korolyov brought his opponent's argument back with the triumph of Yuri Gagarin, while the SpaceX founder in Russia was bragged to deliver US astronauts to the ISS using a trampoline. The advice was given by head of the Russian Roscosmos Dmitry Rogozin, who at the time was Russian Deputy Prime Minister. The reason for it was the US package of sanctions imposed against Russia over the occupation of Crimea and certain areas of Donbass. The reply was not long in coming, and not in word but in deed. After the launch of the Crew Dragon to the ISS, SpaceX founder was asked about the reaction of Roscosmos. He replied jokingly, "Trampoline is working." Reported by Nick Starkov, Natalia Tuguzova, UATV News.
The second life on New Year trees. In Odessa, the reception points for trees that have served their time were opened in the premises of local housing and communal service offices. People get sweets in return for their Christmas trees. The trees are sent for processing, where they turn into environmentally friendly fertilizer. Our correspondents will tell you more.
Здравствуйте, мы вам елочку принесли.
We brought here a tree.
Workers of Odessa public utilities presented some sweets. Everyone who brings their New Year tree to the Housing and Utility Service office is given candy. So far, residents of Odessa are not in a hurry to part with their holiday trees. But the reception point is already working.
2-3 человека в день приносят.
Some 2-3 citizens bring trees every day. People are very happy. They mostly come with children. Children are interested in it. It's nice.
10-year-old Katya says that she brings her Christmas tree to make fertilizer for the city flower beds.
They're given a second life.
A year ago, the collection of New Year trees were carried out in the frameworks of an experiment. But then 20,000 trees have been collected. Utility workers say that people are not used to recycling pines, but it helps to empty garbage containers. Reception points are operating in all areas.
Пунктов приема.
There are 42 reception points. They are functioning everywhere. On weekends, the points are open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. On weekdays, from 9 in the morning to 5 p.m. Some of the trees will be given to the local zoo, reported by Nick Starkov, Anna Grodzentseva, UATV News.
That's all for this hour. More updates on our official website, YouTube, Twitter and Facebook pages. Thank you for staying with UATV channel. Goodbye.